And hello, one and all, and welcome to my live review for tonight's edition of Monday Night Raw. We're going to take a look at everything that took place on the August 22nd, 2016 of Raw that just finished a couple minutes ago. It's in the books, and certainly a lot to talk about that took place on Raw tonight, emanating live from the third straight night from the Barclays Center in New York City. So I'm going to give you my full overall thoughts and opinions on all of the results that took place on Raw tonight. And we really kicked things off tonight with a heartbreaker of an announcement. Finn Balor, the man that just won the WWE Universal Championship the night before at SummerSlam, had to relinquish the Universal title due to injuring his shoulder. And it was announced that he had a torn labrum and that he will be out of action for up to 6 months. Steph and Mick are out there. They announced Balor will be relinquishing the title tonight on Raw. Balor comes down to the ring, gives a very heartfelt, emotional speech. The crowd breaks into a loud "You deserve it" chant. Balor says the championship represents a lifetime of sacrifices and that last night he will forever be known as the man that became the first Universal Champion. And he talked about thanking the WWE for giving him this opportunity and for the support of the fans, and that when he comes back in 6 months' time, that it's his title, and it's only a matter of time before he comes back. This is really hard to watch, just, seeing as how he just got drafted from NXT to Raw and how he was really looking forward to making the most of this opportunity. And 6 months, man, that is just a heartbreaker to see. And thoughts are with Finn Balor. Heal up, rest up, and we just look forward to your return. It's just it's a damn shame. And it was a tough way to kick off Raw tonight because you knew it wasn't good when you heard the reports about Balor possibly being injured and it was just hard to watch. And then, of course, Seth Rollins would come out and make his stake for becoming, he just wanted them to hand him the Universal Championship. Eventually, Sami Zayn would come out. Kevin Owens would make his way to the ramp. Chris Jericho, Enzo and Cass, and finally Roman Reigns. And Mick Foley announces that everyone in this ring is deserving of a title shot, and that's why there will be a number of matches, a series of matches tonight on Raw that will determine who will compete in a fatal four-way match next week live on Raw in Houston. So this was what it was. Like I said, it was tough watching Balor going out there and having to give up the title after he fought so hard to win it. But I did like the announcement of the several matches that we had throughout the night, such as Seth Rollins versus Sami Zayn. We had Rusev versus Big Cass, Chris Jericho versus Roman Reigns, and Kevin Owens versus Neville. So those were a couple nice matches that were announced throughout the night. And our first matchup was Seth Rollins versus Sami Zayn. Very good match right here. Great effort from both guys involved. There was one spot where I was really worried. The way Sami Zayn looked like when he landed after he springboarded over Rollins, it looked like his knee buckled. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know if this was legit or not. It looked legit. I'm worried Sami Zayn might be hurt. I hope to God we don't have another injury. It just looked really bad the way that he landed on it. But give Sami credit. Even if he was legitimately hurt, some bitch powered through this match. And, him and Rollins, they had a hell of an effort. It was a really good fight. There was one part of the match where Rollins went up to the top of the second rope, and he's putting all that weight, all that pressure onto Seth. And I'm not sure if that was the best idea to do considering the predicament of his potentially injured leg. But I give credit to Sami Zayn. He did attempt to do the Blue Thunder bomb, but his leg gave out. So I'm just hoping it's really good selling by Sami and that he is not injured. I didn't see the ref throw up the X sign, so that was good to see. But Rollins was eventually able to get the win after he was finally able to lock in and hit the pedigree for the win. So really hard fought, good competitive match between Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins, and good way to kick off the in-ring portion of Raw tonight. We had another good match after this. We had the second match in the tournament. It was Kevin Owens versus Neville. I always enjoy seeing these two NXT alums go at it. Excuse me. It was great to see Neville get this opportunity, this spot. And him and KO, I thought, went out there and had a pretty competitive match. Eventually, of course, you knew Chris Jericho was going to come out and get involved, and it was because of Jericho coming out that it would allow for Kevin Owens to take advantage of that. Neville tried to hit the 450 splash, or excuse me, the red arrow, but Jericho, of course, distracted him, and this allowed Owens to get Neville in place, and he hit the neck breaker on Neville for the win. So really no surprise there. I had a strong feeling that Kevin Owens was going to advance. So as of this point in the show, we had Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins advance into the Fatal 4-Way match next week on Raw. So right there, it was already shaping up to be a stacked Fatal 4-Way match to determine who would be the new Universal Champion. So right there, we have great reason to look forward to Raw next week. So we'll have to see how that plays out. And then we had New Day make their way to the ring. Of course, Big E back in action after suffering from ring postitis. The New Day go on and talk about, how they've been tag team champions for over 365 days, and they want to have a party. They want to celebrate. So they brought a piñata full of bootios. And just before they get going about that, the club make their way to the ring, and they pretty much say this is all stupid. This is stupid. We should be the WWE Tag Team Champions, despite the fact that the match ended in disqualification last night. And this eventually would segue into Anderson versus Big E. Wasn't really a big fan of this match. I really felt like it made the club look weak in a way because the New Day really just took control, took out Gallows on the outside, and eventually Big E was able to pick up the win with the big ending on Anderson. So this was really nothing much to add here. And then things just got worse here. I really thought the second hour of this show was the weakest of all three, but I did enjoy hours 1 and hours 2, so that'll factor into the grade that I later on give to Raw tonight. But we had this. This was a bad promo. This was Titus O'Neil, and he's just going on and on. He flubbed some of his lines. This was just awkward. He talks about dropping the tag titles with Darren Young and how he dropped the dead weight off his back, and crowd's really not caring about it. I really didn't care about it too much. He called out Bob Backlund, and Backlund tried to lock in the chicken wing on crossface chicken wing on Titus, and Titus body slammed Backlund, and Darren Young came out, and Titus hit him with the Clash of Titus. I really can't get into this feud because we've seen it. When did we see this? In 2014. I wasn't a fan of when they split up primetime players. I think they're better as a unit, and I don't know. Titus is a heel. I just don't think it worked last time. I actually think he's better in the role of babyface. This was not a good night for him because he went out there and he botched his lines, and this was not a good promo. And yeah, I just can't really get into seeing Titus versus Darren Young. I've seen it once. I've seen enough. So that was what it was. We then had Rusev versus Big Cass, and Big Cass was able to pick up the victory after winning by countout because Rusev from the night before at SummerSlam had his ribs heavily taped up. And eventually later on towards the end of the match, he just decided, that's it. I've had enough of this. I'm in tremendous pain as it is. So Rusev walks out, and Big Cass advances into the Fatal 4-Way match next week on Raw. So he will get an opportunity to potentially become the new WWE Universal Champion. So I was actually surprised to see Big Cass advance into the Fatal 4-Way match next week, but I think it's a good opportunity for him, and I think he'll go in there and have a good showing against guys like Rollins and Kevin Owens. So it'll be interesting to see how Big Cass does next week live on Raw in Houston. And then we had what I thought was most clearly the segment of the night. And this was something that I pitched earlier on in my SummerSlam review. If you have the chance to check that out, please do. This was Dana Brooke and the new women's champion, Charlotte, coming down to the ring. She pretty much brags about how, everybody doubted her. They didn't think that she would be able to beat Sasha Banks, who will only be out for 30 days. She doesn't have to get back surgery. If you haven't seen that article, check it out. It's on the internet. So that is very good news on the injury front status for the Boss. Charlotte and Dana pretty much talk about how she did it all by herself. She didn't need any help. And when Sasha's ready to come back, Charlotte said, do us all a favor and don't even bother. And I'm thinking, when they hit Charlotte's music, I'm like, no, this is not going to end. And it didn't, because Mick Foley came down to the ring. He made the announcement that they just made the hottest free agent signing. And who would it be? Bayley. That's right. Bayley made her official main roster debut, as it should have been, on Monday Night Raw in the Barclays Center, a building where she has so much history, where she battled Sasha Banks in that great match of the year for 2015 to take over Brooklyn. She had a hell of a battle last night against Asuka. So what better place for Bayley to make her debut? And she got a monster reaction. The crowd went nuts. They were loving Bayley. I was loving Bayley. She gave Mick Foley a hug, and she laid claim to the stake that she wants to challenge Charlotte for the Women's Championship, just as I laid out this scenario. And Charlotte would eventually decline the challenge, but Bayley would make her Raw in-ring debut by facing Dana Brooke. Nice little match here. Good way to introduce Bayley to the Raw audience, to the main roster. And it was great it was just great to see Bayley on Raw. It was a long time coming. We've been waiting for Bayley. She had nothing left to prove in NXT. She had a hell of an NXT title run. That journey to that title run was great to watch. And now it'll be great to see her on the main roster, mixing up with Charlotte, Nia Jax, Sasha Banks, and so on. So great addition to the Raw female roster, and I'm really looking forward to the inevitable clash between Bayley and Charlotte at Clash of the Champions. Excuse me. That looks to be the direction that they're going in, seeing as how Sasha Banks is on the injured list. Bayley just makes sense, right time, right place, great debut for Bayley. So for me, this was definitely the highlight of the night on Raw. We then had Braun Strowman versus Johnny Knockout, and I'm not quoting this wrong. Byron Saxton was in the ring interviewing this guy, and he asked him, Johnny, why are you doing this? Why are you going up against the beast, Braun Strowman? And this is what he said. I kid you not. He says he likes big, sweaty men. Just quoting what he said. That was out there. I certainly didn't see that happening. I was like, did I just hear that? Clean my ears out. Did I just hear that? Yeah, I did hear that. So Braun Strowman made quick work of this guy. He just flattened him. He hit a nice-looking reverse chokeslam knockout for the win. And then I like this a little bit after the match. Strowman forced the referee to do another count to Johnny Knockout. So technically Braun Strowman pinned Johnny Knockout twice tonight and got the 3 count. So I'm really interested to see where they go with Braun Strowman. I definitely, like I've been saying, I like the fact that they're doing these squash matches, and it builds up, what we see from him in the ring, and eventually I think he will improve over time, and we will slowly see that improvement in the weeks to come. It was also announced for next week that we will have the second in the best of 7 series matchup between Cesaro versus Sheamus. So next week on Raw, it's already shaping up to be a good one. So I'm looking forward to that, along with the championship match. And then we had what I thought was a really good in-ring promo segment. This was hyped up as the Dudley Boyz retirement segment. They talk about Devon and Bubba Ray. They talk about how they've had many ups and downs and how they busted their asses for over 20 years and how they put it all on the line against teams like Edge and Christian. They mentioned the Hardys. That got a really nice delete chant by the Brooklyn crowd. So final deletion stuff there. And, this is a really good, really strong promo from the Dudley Boyz. And the Shining Stars would appear. And I'm like thinking, what the fuck? Why the hell are they out here? And they want to offer the Dudley Boyz tickets to Puerto Rico. And I'm thinking, dear God, please get the tables already. And before you can even think about it, they lay out the Shining jobbers with the 3D, and eventually Devon goes to get the tables, and just as they're about to get the tables, the club would surprisingly attack. That's right. Anderson and Gallows would attack the Dudley Boyz. They'd lay out Bubba Ray with the Magic Killer on the outside and put Devon through the tables. So I am very interested in seeing a feud between the club versus the Dudley Boyz if they're not retiring. I'm assuming they're not. That was just a work and just part of the storyline, and we'll see where this goes. We possibly might be seeing these two fight at Clash at the Champions at the end of this month. So I'm all for a club versus Dudley Boyz feud. I think they could have a good series of matches. So that was good stuff all around. And like I said, finally, our main event match of the evening was a solid match between the Ayatollah of Rock and Roll, Chris Jericho versus Roman Reigns. And, of course, Roman Reigns getting a loud, heavy boos in Brooklyn, New York tonight. They were not dealing with Roman tonight, and they were really hoping beyond hope that somehow, some way, Chris Jericho would pick up the victory. I was hoping for Jericho to walk out with the win, because it would really have been interesting to see Jericho and Owens both in that fatal four-way match next week, and just the dynamic of seeing Jericho trying to potentially coexist and trying to outdo one another. That didn't happen. Of course, towards the end of the match, Kevin Owens would come down out to ringside. He would eventually try and interfere. This would eventually lead to Reigns Superman punching Owens, tried to get the spear. Jericho would lock in the walls of Jericho. Eventually, as Reigns was grabbing the ring, the ropes, Owens would kick him in the head, and eventually Jericho hit the code breaker, but Reigns, of course, kicked out. Jericho begins just viciously slapping Reigns in the head, and this fires Reigns up, and eventually Owens gets on the apron. Reigns Superman punches Kevin Owens, and he hits the spear on Chris Jericho for the win. So we now have our 4 participants in the Fatal 4-Way match to crown the new Universal Champion next week. It will be Roman Reigns taking on Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, and Big Cass. Out of the 4 participants in that match, I would love to see either Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, or it's not likely that Big Cass is going to win. So those are my rankings from top to bottom. Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Big Cass, and then Roman Reigns. That's who I'd like to see in that order. So we'll see how that turns out next week. But overall, like I said, for the most part, I did enjoy Raw tonight. I'd give it a solid B show. Like I said, the second hour could have been a little better, but I thought the first hour was solid, and the last hour was solid stuff all around. So not too bad all around. So yeah, those are my thoughts and opinions on this week's edition of Raw, the aftermath from SummerSlam 2016. So guys, let me know down in the comment section below what you all thought of Raw tonight. I enjoyed getting your feedback, and I want to say thank you to all who tuned into this live review. Please remember to click that like and subscribe button for more video content coming soon to my channel. And remember to be on the lookout tomorrow night after SmackDown at 10:05 p.m. for my live SmackDown review. Look forward to seeing you all there. And until next time, guys, I will see you later.